It is a cold, cold evening, Tuesday evening in the Hudson Valley. Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of the TheCycleshackPodcast. I'm your host, Ivan Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me once again. We're making sure our feeds are up here. We are recording live on Twitch.tv. Hello to everybody on Twitch.tv viewing. Later on, this show would be, maybe later on this week, the show will be on the YouTube channel, the Cycleshack Podcast on YouTube. And again, right now we're on Twitch.tv, making sure that stream is live. I want to thank the sponsors of the Cycleshack Podcast. That is Flipboard.com. And of course, the main podcast platform, Anchor.fm, the only way to podcast. And the podcast is also available on Apple iTunes. A couple of other platforms, as I always mention and always forget to have it queued up on what other platforms were available. That's important, right? Maybe I should always have that queued up. But the distribution of this podcast is as follows. Of course, the home platform, Anchor.fm, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify, folks. If you got a Spotify membership, you can catch the Cycle Shack on it. Breaker, Castbox, Google Play Music, Overcast, Pocket Cast, and Radio Public. So like I said, man, it's a really brisk 30 degrees right now. It's about 25, sorry. I went out about 2 hours ago and it was about 30 degrees. And it's, it's 9:08 p.m. over here in the Hudson Valley, New York. And we braced ourselves for a storm that was potentially blowing through Saturday night into Sunday. And of course, I'm thankful that it wasn't the way they said it was going to be. I'm thankful that it didn't come down the way it did, because it would have been a really bad storm. And it technically wasn't. We got about 2 or 3 inches. I want to say 3 to 4 inches. More along the 3 inches of nice powdery snow. And then the rest of it was that, I wouldn't say hail. It was frozen rain that fell. But it really created maybe like a half an inch of a glaze over that 3 inches. And it was kind of hard to plow around. But you know what? I prefer that than like 10 inches of the white stuff. You know what I mean? And, yeah, I mean, we braced ourselves, but thankfully the storm wasn't what it was. And of course, in true fashion, we go out and me and my wife go shopping and we poke fun of everybody. There was a comedian named Vic DeBello on Facebook who broadcast last year. Every time it was going to snow, he'd run around like a maniac, all frantic, saying, "We're going out to get the bread. We're going out to get the bread and the peanut butter. It's going to snow. The storm's coming." So me and my wife make fun of that every year. We go to Costco and say, "Look at them. They're getting the bread and eggs and the peanut butter for the storm. Look at them. Look, they're buying stuff for the storm." Meanwhile, we're loading up our cart with munchies, pork rinds, cheese balls, and all that other stuff. But, yeah, we had already did the food shopping for the house, but we figured out let's stop by, get some munchies for the kids. We're going to, Netflix it through the storm. And we did. And, but again, thankfully we pulled through the storm. After the storm, there was a really, really deep chill that came in, and it dropped down to about 0 degrees. Felt like negative 20. And it sure did. It was, I looked outside, that thermometer was below the zero, about negative 10 degrees. They said it felt like negative 20. It felt like negative 20 with the wind chill. We got like almost 40 mile per hour winds that Sunday, I want to say. And then, no, I'm sorry. Monday during the day, Sunday into Monday was the heavy winds along with that brisk cold. That was the first day of the cold weather. Today was the second day. Today it might have dropped down to like the teens. But as the evening came into play, I want to say by 6 p.m. I was outdoors. Took the dog out for a quick little walk and felt like it was about between, 25 and 30 degrees, I think the thermometer said. And but there was no wind, so it felt a lot better. I mean, it was still cold. Cold is cold. But it was a still crisp cold. But anyway, I'm just thankful that tomorrow we're going to be back up into the mid-30s, and it's supposed to rain. mid-30s, low 40s. But thankfully, again, that storm, I'm glad the weatherman got it right this time. Give him credit for once. And, switching topics and gears for a second, I'm notorious for that here. There's one thing that I bitch about every year. And I don't understand people with the holidays. Once the holidays are done, you put your decorations away. You call it. Fanute, done. And there are people in my neighborhood that leave their decorations up. Now, I'm going to tell you that the countdown begins January 1st. Because, okay, there are people that leave their decorations up till after New Year's. Well, not me. We threw them up this year. My wife threw them up because I didn't do a damn thing. My wife threw them up Thanksgiving. She took them down maybe before New Year's. I'm lying. Maybe during New Year's. Okay, let's call it January 1st, right? January 2nd, maybe that week into the weekend. So January 6th, which in some Hispanics celebrate Three Kings Day on January 6th. Little Christmas, they call it. It's okay. It is January 22nd, and a few of my neighbors still have their lights lit up every night. I drive by, coming home from work, and the lights are lit up religiously every night. That is confusing as all heck. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off even more when it's March 1st, okay? Valentine's Day, you still see snowmen lit up on people's lawns. Valentine's Day, that sucks. It's confusing. It plays mind tricks. It annoys the living piss out of me. And I don't know. But I've gone as far as March 1st. I think the second week of March, people have left them. And then there's one lady who decorates her porch, and her porch is all encased in glass. And she leaves the Christmas tree lit up and lights it up every day on her porch. She's gone through April with that. Oh, man, I can't stand that. But anyway, let's leave that alone. Just something I thought I'd share. If you got one of those people in your neighborhood, man, the CycleshackPodcast at gmail.com. Maybe I should advertise the email to the show. So here's the reason to advertise the email to the show. Check out the CycleshackPodcast at gmail.com. Write in what pisses you off about the holidays. That's what pisses me off about the holidays. People leaving their decorations well after the holidays. So email the show. I get a kick out of it. I get a kick out of being pissed, if that makes any sense. Ooh, I'm just erasing stuff here and there. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. Yo, look at that. The show, the Cycleshack Podcast. Whoa. I'm just doing everything here. My fingers are going bananas. I'm going bananas. Bam, there we go. Email the show, the TheCycleshackPodcast at gmail.com. The Cycleshack Podcast. Yes, that's the name of the show. Correct. Right. Okay, we can get rid of that. The email, So email us. The stuff that pisses you off about the holidays. What's your pet peeve with the holidays? We all love the holidays, especially for the kids. But what is it that pisses you off about the holidays? So, getting on with these topics for the show. Of course, I binge watch Netflix. And I just finished watching The Punisher. I watched The Punisher season. Listen to me, Punisher. The Punisher season 1 last season in early 2018, and it was awesome. Season 1 was crazy. When he appeared on Daredevil, It was awesome. This is all Marvel series on Netflix. And when they announced that The Punisher was coming out with his own show, well, great. So I binged watched season 1. Awesome. Loved it. Couldn't wait for it to come back. So it came back January 18th, Friday. And, man, I was done with this thing Monday. I binged watched the hell out of this thing all weekend, and we finished it up. Man, what a season 2. You got to check this show out. It's Netflix, The Punisher, Marvel's The Punisher on Netflix. Awesome fight choreography. I mean, I'm into all that stuff. It's a guy's show. So if you like guy movies for guys who like movies, well, that's the show to watch, The Punisher. Check it out on Netflix. Punisher Season 2. Awesome. Crazy show. And I also flicked through the previews a lot. And one of the previews I actually saw was they're coming out with a new Ghostbusters. Now, earlier this last year, the Ghostbusters came out, and it was kind of a twist. It was a spin of Ghostbusters. I don't want to call it I don't know if it was a reboot, but they did it with 3 women. That McCarthy chick, I forgot her name. Anyway, it was okay. It was funny, but it wasn't the original Ghostbusters. It had nothing to do with the original. I mean, other than they tried to stick to more or less the theme, and where they got the firehouse and they had the Ecto-1 and yada yada yada, whatever. But they put their own little twist onto it. But it got me to watching the original Ghostbusters, and I love those movies. I'm an 80s dude. I love anything 80s, from the music to the movies. Anything that brings you back to that time, I love it. And I don't know if you guys ever checked out on Netflix Stranger Things, with about those kids that all these mysterious alien things happen in the town, and that's coming back for season 3. You might want to check that out. That's an 80s themed show, and I love that. So anyway, I'm looking through the previews, and apparently they cut their. I saw a preview on Netflix, not Netflix. I'm sorry, I'm all mixed up here, man. Maybe it's too cold in here in the basement. It's affecting my brain, and so. I stumbled upon a preview. It was a quick preview, and it showed a barn. It was a storm. There was some weird clouds of the storm. Anyway, go on YouTube and click it. Check it out. What am I talking about? Apparently, they're coming out with a new Ghostbusters, and it's going to be Ghostbusters 3. Now, this isn't a reboot. This is going to actually be the Ghostbusters series with Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, all these guys. I don't know if they're coming back to make cameo appearances or I don't know, but I got an article for you that I wanted to read real quick. It's on eonline.com by Elsie Dupree. And apparently a new Ghostbusters movie is coming in 2020. So check it out on YouTube. Type in GB20 on YouTube, and you'll see the Ghostbusters preview. So Jason Reitman, which is the son of the famous director Ivan Reitman, who directed the original series Ghostbusters, the original movie series, is taking over the classic. It says here, Jason Reitman is resurrecting the classic supernatural comedy by directing and co-writing a brand new version. Excuse me. Finally, got the keys to the car, the filmmaker who also directed Juno, Up in the Air, and others tweeted on Wednesday, #GB20. Sony Pictures is set to release the film this summer of 2020. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Jason makes it clear that the movie serves as the next chapter in the original franchise, so it's not a reboot, which is great. I love it already. What happened in the 80s happened in the 80s, he tells the media. This is set in present day. While the details surrounding the film, such as plot, cast, have yet to be released, there is a teaser for the spooktacular movie. It's a 51-second show clip that shows an abandoned barn on a stormy night. At one point, light flashes inside the structure. As the wind begins to blow, the haunting music starts to play. Viewers are brought inside the barn, where the film's iconic car is revealed. You know what I'm talking about, Ecto 1. I don't know. I'm an '80s buff, man. I get excited because I can't wait to see the thing. So watch the video, the sneak peek. You can go to YouTube and type in GB20. And as fans recall, Jason's father, Ivan Reitman. Whoa, that's a good name. Ivan Reitman directed the original Ghostbusters movie. The 1984 classic had a star-studded cast, which included Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, and Sigourney Weaver. Ivan also directed the 1989 sequel, Ghostbusters 2, and is set to produce his son's new project. So that's cool, man. Can't wait to see it. It's coming out summer of 2020. That's Ghostbusters Part 3. So, again, I had to throw that in there. I'm a movie buff. What does that have to do with motorcycles? It's to add more part, people. So, moving on to the next topic. All right, we're checking our feeds. We're still on the air. Awesome. Just to recap, if you're joining on twitch.tv, thank you for joining. The show is broadcasting live on twitch.tv right now. And later on this week, the show will be posted up to our YouTube page for anybody who wants to view via YouTube. So stay tuned. Either way, there's a way to hear the show or watch it. I know this isn't much to watch. It's just me flapping my gums, but it's another outlet, right? So, do a quick little power glitch here. That ain't cool. We're still up and running. Yes, we are. All right. So, I came down hard, getting to our motorcycle topics now. I came down pretty hard on Harley Davidson with the live wire. And I'm not apologetic about that because I think coming out with that live wire motorcycle right now, and you know what? I'm not going to call it a motorcycle. Okay? An electric bike, live wire. An Enercycle, a Duracycle is what I called it, I believe, on my blog page. Check out the Cycleshack podcast blog. You can go to the Facebook at TheCycleshackPodcast. Click on the webpage. The webpage it's too long to give, but click on the website, the Cycleshack Podcast, on Facebook, and you can go on my blog page. I also have the videos posting up to the blog page, but I did a quick blog on the Harley Davidson live wire, a few sentences, nothing crazy, and I strongly put my feelings up there because, again, I think this is the wrong time to be coming out with this bike. Harley Davidson, I'm a fan of the motorcycle, and to come out with live wire right now, an electric bike, just wasn't the right time. I think they should have saved it for, I don't know. I just think it wasn't the right time. I think this is going to hurt them if they don't come out with more in 2019. If they don't do something fast, I think this one can sink them. They're not really going to gain anything with this bike. I really don't see it doing well, especially with that $30,000 price tag. No way. So I got another quick little thing for you. YahooNews.com, courtesy of the Motley Fool, Rich Dupree. What the heck is Harley Davidson thinking? Its long-awaited electric live-wire motorcycle is now ready for pre-order, pending shipment in August. But instead of making it an accessible high-performance machine, that could jumpstart the sales renaissance, it instead delivers another premium-priced bike that underperforms the competition. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's what I said in my last podcast. On the last show, I said that. You made something that was overpriced. And is it going to compete with your lineup of bikes? Who are you competing with? What are you doing? Well, motorcycle enthusiasts and investors waited for 5 years to see what Harley would come out with, and this is how they've been rewarded. Again, I'm reading from The Motley Fool, courtesy of yahoonews.com. To shareholders who hoped the live wire would spark Harley's turnaround, I have some advice. Pull the plug on that dream right now. Yeah, because it isn't going to happen. More of the same. Make no mistake, the 2020 live wire is a beauty. It's interesting. That's what I say. It accelerates from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds with a futuristic sound. I don't care about the futuristic sound. I don't care to go 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. I don't got to go nowhere that fast. It's great. It could do it. Good. Big deal. For those who got $30,000 to spend on it, great. But the way they hype this thing to just come out with this now, I don't know. Twist and go technology that requires no clutch or gear shifting. There's a level 1 onboard battery charger that you can plug into a normal 110 outlet, charge the bike overnight, or visit a public level 3 DC fast charge station, similar to all the electric cars, the Tesla, the Volt, etc. The Volt, Chevy Volt, etc. Which that's going away, by the way. Chevy realized it ain't happening. That's finiti, garbage, gone. Where Harley Davidson is short-circuiting its vision is on the price. The live wire retails for just under $30,000, meaning that within the company's lineup, only the trikes and ultra high-end CVO bikes are more expensive. That's what I said. You didn't make a bike in a class that would be affordable. You didn't make a bike. I mean, again, when I first saw this thing, I thought this thing was going to run no more than 18 grand, and that was being super expensive. Okay, I thought this thing was going to be anywhere between 15 and 18 grand, and it's double that, $30,000 pretty much. And that sucks. So you got the CVO and the trikes that are pretty much the one step above as far as price. And while its battery range of 110 miles on a single charge in urban driving conditions is better than the 60 miles the prototype offered, it's still less than the ranges of electric motorcycles already on the market. Zero motorcycles, although Zero is not as fancy looking of a bike as this one, I would still rather pay what Zero's charging for their bikes, which, from what I understand, is way cheaper than 30 grand. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but who cares? Who cares about the infotainment system? And who cares? I just need a battery level, maybe the time and the miles per hour. Done. I don't need all that other stuff. By contrast, the Model S from Zero Motorcycles, which has been dubbed as the Tesla of motorcycles, comes with its new, more powerful ZF 14.4 battery, which is outfitted with an optional power tank, which provides an additional 3.6 kilowatt hours of battery storage. Zero's e-bike can do 223 miles of city driving, or almost 100 miles on the highway. That's a significant amount more than the Livewire. Livewire, to make it a little bit more impressive, and I'm not saying that I would still favor it, should have came out with more numbers than that as far as charge. The amount of riding you can do on a single charge. Notably, the Livewire can manage only 70 miles of highway riding on a charge, meaning you won't be taking it out for a long Sunday morning jaunt in the country. And it goes on here to say how Harley's missing the market, etc., etc., etc. Nothing that I haven't already repeated to you before, so there's no sense in reading this. You can check it out on the podcast. I have the little notes. I put all the links on this stuff so you can read for yourself and read along with it. And, again, tell me what you think. TheCycleshackPodcast at gmail.com. I may be a little bit hard on Harley Davidson, but for the most part, rightfully so, Uh, I defend Harley Davidson all the time because I do think they make great bikes. I love their bikes, but the price tag is what's starting to get a little sick to people. And you know what? I'm not changing the brand. I'm not abandoning the brand, but I'm disappointed because I want to see more out of the bike. I want to see more of the out of the creativity. You know how to make a great bike and charge a lot of money for it. So make a good bike that's good value without taking away from the how do you say, the quality, the ride quality. Maybe you can scale back on that paint because Harley Davidson does have dynamite paint jobs. You spend a pretty penny because of the paint job. So maybe they could scale that back, in that department. They do excellent chroming. Well, maybe they could come out with some non-chrome parts that are like, powder-coated black or a gray powder coat. Something that you can scale back on the dollars and cut back. The infotainment. Not every bike comes with an infotainment. Maybe you can, that's one option that's obviously coming out. So, I don't know. I'm not a motorcycle engineer. I don't pretend to know that portion of it, but I don't know, man. Harley's got to step it up with that somehow. Another bike that's coming out that's kind of kicking Harley in the ass here in the States, and it's not as handsome looking a bike as a Harley. I personally don't like the look of this bike, period. It's the Royal Enfield. It's an Indian-made bike. Royal Enfield used to be manufactured by the Brits. Sorry to say it that way. By the British in England. It was a Royal Enfield. Yeah, the Brits manufactured it, and the Indians bought it. India bought it, and it's now manufactured in India. Basically, right now, this article is by motorcyclecruiser.com. You can check it out. It was just printed January 10th by Morgan Gales. And it goes on to say, Royal Enfield builds two $6,000 bikes for everyone. Look at that article. Builds two $6,000 bikes for everyone. Who doesn't want that? Why can't Harley do shit like that? Excuse the French. I try to keep a family-friendly show, but I get pissed. Why can't you build an affordable bike? According to what I read a long time ago, the Livewire was going to be, or Harley, period, was going to build bikes like the Livewire and other bikes that were going to be more affordable for the quote-unquote millennials, which is okay. You know what I mean? Everybody always bashes the millennial thing, but, it is what it is. They're the next generation. We got to accept that, okay? But how are you going to get these guys on the bikes if you're charging $30,000 for a bike? They're going to go to Royal Enfield. They're going to say, the heck with the battery. We'll go with the gas. We'll stick with the funny-looking Brit bike, the Royal Enfield. The INT 650 and the Continental GT are affordable, stylish, and a blast to ride. Royal Enfield sells more 250 through 750 cc motorcycles than any other company worldwide. With more than 800,000 units sold in 2017, Royal Enfield's 350cc and 500cc singles are incredibly popular in India, where they are manufactured, but haven't found the same mainstream success in in American and European markets. But now, with the new 650 parallel twin platform and the two new models, the INT 650 and the Continental G650, Enfield has a bigger bike that's fit for highway travel with classic styling, versatility, and decent performance while keeping the reliability as a high priority through design and manufacturing. The 650 twins seem to have it all for just under $6,000. $6,000. That's a great deal. This is what we need. This is what we need from Harley. You know what? I'm going to throw Victory in there also. Oh, I'm sorry, Victory's gone. What am I thinking? I'm going to throw Indian in there also. If you wanted to make a bike to kick the living shit out of Harley Davidson, Indian should have been the one to do it. They should have stepped into the market and build a bike for $6,000. Build a bike that costs $10,000. build a bike to compete with the Harley Davidson. What are the street glides? The street glide specials. The bikes that they're building to compete with them cost just what, $2-3 grand under the Street Glide Special. So the Street Glide Special runs what, $27 grand. These are the ones Indian are making are $25. Well, if you would have came out with a bike that lives up to the quality and lives up to the standard of Harley's version of the Street Glide Special, which is one of their best performing baggers for I don't know how many years and counting. You should have came out with something that was under $18 grand. That would have made a dent in the market. Keep it under $15 grand. Smash them. If Indian really wanted to make a statement in the American motorcycle market, that would have been the way to do it. But they didn't. Okay? Excuse me. So, when most of us got into motorcycles, and I'm continuing to read the article. When most of us got into... Ooh, I lost the website here. All right, let's try this again. This is great. Okay. When most of us got into motorcycles, we hadn't made up our minds between sport bikes, cruisers, adventure bikes, or what, What am I looking at here? Why are my notes all scrambled up like this? Seems like I got to get that ready. All right. So again, reading again. When most of us got into motorcycles, we hadn't made up our minds between sport bikes, cruisers, adventure bikes, or what have you, because, well, we didn't think we had to. There was this wonderful genre called Universal Japanese Motorcycles, UJMs, like Honda's CB line of the 70s that sat somewhere in the middle of the sport bike and cruiser vibe, with a relaxed but upright riding position powered by a versatile midsize engine. We have seen a resurgence of this category of bike, now simply referred to as standards, and they have harked back to those glory days without cruiser guys and sport bike guys, bringing it back to the simple focus of the ride. That's where the Royal Enfield Twin sits, comfortably in between genres, as something everyone can appreciate. Well, that's what these Royal Enfield bikes look like. You can click on the link on the notes, or you could check out motorcyclecruiser.com. And, Royal Enfield, it looks like the old Honda CB lineup bike. That's the best way I can describe it. It looks like a bike of the 70s. It looks like a bike of the 60s into the 70s, really. But you know what? These are the type of bikes that look like, with a little chopping, the hipsters will love it. Just, cruising around the city with their little flip-flops on. I don't mean to single these guys out, but I've seen it downtown in the summertime. When I go to work, I have a job site in the city that I go to, or that I used to go to, and I used to see it all the time. I used to see these guys with these tricked-out, old-school 70s Hondas. And, yeah, man, these guys would have long hair and ponytails, man buns. They'd have the T-shirts on, and that had some kind of, some kind of trendy T-shirt. They'd have the cargo shorts, and they'd have either flip-flops. I'm dead serious. Either flip-flops or sandals, riding a 750 Honda or something. That's the kind of bike. But you know what? This is the kind of bike that the millennials want. This is affordability. This is affordability, and these things you can run them into the ground, and they'll still keep coming. That's what Harley needs to do. And Harley engineers need to step it up, really. And what they really need to do is step it down with the price. Because it's just getting ridiculous. It's getting old. And I love Harley. Again, I'll stand by the brand, but please, you got to do something about your price tag. Keep everything that you have right now for those that can afford it. Great. Awesome. But if you really want to bring in that new genre of riders so that way you can be in this same position with these baggers 20 years from now, you got to make some a little bit more affordable so that you can kind of get this generation ready for the street glides of tomorrow. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to focus on. And it don't take no genius to figure that one out. And speaking of today's youth, I got one more thing, and we're off the motorcycle topic now. We're back into the and more. I got a little something that a coworker of mine showed me, and I just thought I had to read this because this was cool. It's from happiest.net, and I'll put it on the notes of the show when I'm done. But how much time we got here? All right, we're doing good. So I want to read this to you. It's on happiest.net. It's by Harry J. Barlett. Okay? Title of this article is Cashier Mocks Old Lady in Store, but her comeback leaves her searching for words. The older generations in society have contributed to so much during their days. Maybe not all good, but a lot all the same. They've lived through many different eras, and of course they have a pretty good understanding of how the world has changed throughout time. Because of this, they have invaluable life experience over the younger generations. One such drama seems to be the green thing regarding environmental awareness. Sadly, it isn't always respected by the youth of today. Sure, with the advances in technology, many old people get left behind. But that doesn't mean they don't lose the knowledge of societal changes. To illustrate this point, we're going to tell you a story that went viral on Facebook and has been shared by over 1.5 million Facebook viewers. Whether or not the story is fictional doesn't really matter. What matters is the message. Our story takes place in a grocery store. And again, I'm reading the way it was printed. An elderly lady approaches the cashier at the end of her shopping trip, and the cashier urged the old lady to bring her own bags to the store because plastic bags are not good for the environment. The old lady apologized and tried to explain to the young cashier, we didn't have this green thing back in my earlier days. A simple explanation, but instead of acceptance, the cashier continued her rant. That's our problem today. Your generation didn't care enough to save our environment for future generations. Whoa. But the old lady retorted with many surprises to the cashier. The response was powerful and shouldn't go unnoticed. The old lady decided she wasn't going to take it anymore. She rolled up them sleeves. Back then, we returned milk bottles, soda bottles, and beer bottles to the store. The store sent them back to the plant to be washed, sterilized, and refilled. So it could use the same bottles over and over again. So they were really recycled. But we didn't have that green thing back then. Back in our day. But she wasn't just done yet. Grocery stores bagged our groceries in brown paper bags, she explained, that we reused for numerous things. Most memorable besides household garbage bags was the use of brown paper bags as book covers for our school books. Who remembers that? I used to do that. My grandmother used to do that for me. Every time I got in September when we went back to school and I got my newly assigned school books, my science book, my social studies or history books, math books, hardcover, 300 pages. My grandmother would sit there with brown paper bag and make book covers for me, and I would write in it wasn't Sharpie back then. It was a Marks-a-Lot marker. Good old days. This was to ensure that public property, the books provided to us by our school, was not defaced by our scribblings. Then we were able to personalize our books on the brown paper bags. But too bad we didn't go do the green thing back then. The cashier recoiled, but the old lady was far from finished. Back then, we had one TV or radio in the house, not a TV in every room. And the TV had a small screen the size of a handkerchief. Remember them? Not a screen the size of the state of Montana. In the kitchen, we blended and stirred by hand because we didn't have electric machines to do everything for us. When we packaged a fragile item to send in the mail, we used wadded up old newspapers to cushion it, not styrofoam or plastic bubble wrap. Back then, we didn't fire up an engine and burn gasoline just to cut the lawn. We used a push mower that ran on human power. We exercised by working, so we didn't need to go to health clubs to run on treadmills that operate on electricity. But you're right. We didn't have the green thing back then. By this point, another cashier had opened a queue on another lane. But that didn't stop the old lady. Back then, we washed baby diapers because we didn't have the throwaway kind. We dried our clothes on a line, not in an energy-gobbling machine burning up 220 volts. Wind and solar power really did dry our clothes back in our early days. Kids got hand-me-down clothes from their brothers and sisters, not always brand-new clothing from the department stores. Back then, people took the streetcar or a bus. Kids rode their bicycles to school or walked instead of turning their moms into a 24-hour taxi service in the family's $45,000 SUV or van, which cost a whole house what a whole house did before the green thing. And then a final sweeping crescendo. She proclaimed, isn't it sad the current generation's laments how wasteful we old folks are just because we didn't have the green thing back then? The cashier was left stunned for words. The old lady finished by packing her own goods and left the store. I'm pretty sure the cashier will think twice before she goes on the attack of the older generation. Sure, sometimes the youth of today know best, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're superior. While there are a lot of things the older generations have seen and experienced that gave them the upper hand, so talk to them. Communication is the key. Don't just dismiss people because of their age, because if you don't, you may just find yourself in a similar situation. Take that. I like that. I just thought I should share it. Check us out at the Cycle Shack. What's my email address? TheCycleshackPodcast at gmail.com. Tell me what you think about anything I spoke about here on the show today. I appreciate you listening. Thank you to the sponsors, Flipboard.com, Anchor.fm. Check out the show live on Twitch.tv with replays thereafter. And later on this week, it's going to be available on YouTube. And check out the blog page. Check out the Facebook at the Cycle Shack Podcast. And the blog pages on the Cycle Shack as well. So, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Cycle Shack. I'm Ivan Rodriguez. I appreciate you listening. So please, if you can, rate the show on any platform, especially iTunes and the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Rate the show. Tell me what you think. I don't care. I got thick skin. Do what you got to do. I'll check you out, guys. Thank you very much. I'm Ivan Rodriguez from the Hudson Valley Animal House Studios. Peace. Thanks for listening.